What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? My name's Dan Kornhauser.
And my name is Bobby Hunt.
Thank you guys for tuning in as we take a journey back into the world of sports with Bob and myself as your guides. You're Lois and Clark, if you will. He's Lois, I'm Clark. And
Thanks.
you're welcome. And with that, Bob, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. There's a lot to talk about. I'm excited for this podcast. It's been a while. We did NFL draft the last few podcasts, but we're going to delve into something different tonight.
That we are, and we're going to cover a little bit of almost everything tonight for our areas, teams, and sports. So it's playoff season. It's playoff time in basketball and in hockey. The Islanders have moved on. The Knicks and the Nets are representing the state of New York very well. Knicks are tied 1-1 with the Hawks, as we know. We know the Nets are up 2-0 on the Celtics. And, I mean, Bob, a pretty exciting time in New York, which is for everyone, which is really weird to say out loud. Because, I mean, hell, the Yankees are winning. The Mets, I'm pretty sure, are still in first place, despite having a AAA squad as their starting lineup. It's pretty impressive stuff. It's nice to be a New York sports fan these days.
Yeah, literally just a few seasons ago, both New York basketball teams sucked, completely irrelevant. Then you had the Devils stunk. They've been stinking for years. The Islanders have had some playoff success recently. And even the Rangers started their rebuild 3 or 4 seasons ago. So really, for the most part, as far as hockey and basketball during this time, when it is playoff season for the two sports, it's pretty much just been the Islanders recently and, some with the Nets over the past couple of years. But now it's different. It's a whole new ballgame for the Nets. They're expected to win. Whereas with the Knicks, you have a team that is the underdog that people didn't expect to be there. And the Islanders just keep rolling along. They keep having success. I just hope that even though, yes, we're both Devils fans, I would love to see them make a Stanley Cup run and get there. I believe they made it to the conference finals last year, but wound up losing to the Lightning. It could be wrong on that. We obviously aren't the biggest hockey buffs. If you've been following the show over the last couple of years, we're not, it's not our favorite sport, but it's still one that we love to give some attention to, especially when, some of the locals are doing well. And even though we're not Islanders fans, they're not the Rangers, so we don't hate them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The Rangers could suck it, but congratulations to the Islanders moving forward and representing New York right, even though the Rangers and the Devils, tri-state area Devils suck. But it's fine. It's fine. At least one out of 3 ain't too bad. That's hitting bad 300, yeah?
Yeah, above that, but yes.
So, well, we're going to potentially jump back into hockey later on. But now that we're talking about batting 300, let's talk about some Yankees and Mets real quick before we jump back into the playoff world of the Knicks and the Nets. Like I said earlier, the Yankees are winning a lot of games these days. I know recently they were on like a 6 or 7 game winning streak or something like that.
Pretty much, and they had been at one point like 9-1 in their last 10. A couple struggles over the last couple days, but they're still a team to be reckoned with. The thing that stinks for them right now is that the AL East is so strong.
It's weird. I mean, Tampa Bay is 9-1 in their last 10. They're another team that went streaking through the quad and into the gymnasium. And I'm looking back here, and they won, 1, 2, 3, 7, 10 games in a row before they lost to Kansas City?
Exactly.
11 games, sorry. They won 11 games in a row before they lost to Kansas City on Tuesday. But they won their last 2. So 13 out of their last 14 ain't too bad. And they went from complete obscurity in the bottom of not at the bottom, but not quite right where we're used to seeing them in the last couple of years. And with this winning streak, they're right back at the top. Boston keeps winning, which sucks, and they keep hitting, which is weird considering the lineup and how much we shat on this team.
Their lineup is fine. When we
their lineup is all right.
Their lineup is good. We talked about their pitching not being quite right.
No, I remember the pitching, but this lineup is doing a lot more than I feel it. I don't know, like Devers, for example. Devers is looking like an all-star. I mean, Xander Bogaerts, we know, is right, but JD Martinez is hitting
Well,
like, I mean,
that's
what?
the one.
That's
That's who it is JD Martinez, and I would know because he screwed my fantasy team last year when I picked him in like the second round. He had a bad 2020. We can give all the excuses and say what there is for so many guys who didn't do well in the shortened season last year with it being only 60 games, but he wasn't good. That's the biggest difference. When your 3 or 4 hitter is hitting over 300 and driving in runs and producing like he is, that's a huge difference. But we talked about their lineup that it was pretty good and they might be able to score some runs, but the
yeah, but
pitching has been
dude,
the real surprise. I mean, Bogarts has been great for my fantasy team, so he's excelling. Verdugo keeps getting nicked up, but he's played the majority of games this year. So they have a good lineup, but I'm shocked that they're 30-20. I got to be honest.
Devers has 14 home runs. All right. Let's
Unbelievable.
let's think about this. So they're batting 260 as a team, which is second, I believe, second in the American League, maybe in the majors. They have 259 runs, which is good for first. They have a slugging percentage as a team of 445. That is absurd. And they're sixth in home runs. They're eighth in on base percentage. I mean, across the board, team batting stats are through the roof. I mean, Devers with 14 home runs, JD Martinez hitting 320 with 12 home runs. I mean, it's what 37 RBIs. It sucks. It's weird. I mean, yeah, their lineup is good, but these guys are really playing above and beyond. And it's something. It's something special. But as a Yankees fan, I can't stand it. But they're not that far ahead of the Yankees. They're only what, a game and a half ahead of the Yanks right now as going into today. They're 30-20. The Yankees are 28-21, good for third. And I'm not concerned. It's a long season. I know in the beginning of the season, a lot of Yankees fans were sounding the panic alarms and saying the world is coming, the sky is falling. Oh my God, what are the Yankees doing? Oh, Aaron Boone. Oh, Giancarlo Stanton. Oh, Judge is hurt again. And it was disaster in New York City. Gleyber Torres, what happened? And everybody sucked. And it was such the end of the Yankees as we knew it. And, you and I, more level-headed Yankees fans, pump the brakes on that a bit. I know we didn't have talk about it on our show or have a podcast talk about this stuff early in the season, but we chat every day and over the course of the day, and we were never really concerned about this Yankees team and their slide in the early part of the season. And things have balanced out. It's a long year, and I fully expect this Yankees team to continue making the right moves. I mean, as of now, they're up 1-0 on the Jays, and I'm hoping they keep things going in the right direction. The batting, I mean, surprisingly, the batting has been piss poor. It's been one of the worst in the majors. 21st in batting average, 23rd in runs scored. Hell, even for the Yankees, 11th in home runs. WTF. 21st in slugging. But very, very surprisingly, which actually seems to be the theme around the majors, is the pitching is what's carrying us. We're fourth in the majors in ERA, fourth in batting average against, and third in WHIP, which, Bob, coming into the season, if I told you the Yankees were going to be top 3 or top 4 in the major pitching categories, but we were going to be bottom 10 in all the major hitting categories except on base percentage and home runs, you'd probably laugh at me.
Yeah, I would be shocked, to be honest. It's been disappointing in some ways, but you're right. We're more level-headed and we don't freak out after 10 or 20 games. If they were under 500 now, that would be more reasonable. A third of the way through the season, yes, as we know, still over 100 games, still left to be played, but we're almost at the, third of the way through the season, heading into June. They're 28-20, so they're 8 games above 500. They're right in the thick of things, or 28-21 after they lost earlier today. But basically, they're right in the thick of things in the AL East. They'll be fine. But the problem is that the batting has been just horrific, and they've also begun sustaining injuries. Luke Voigt, first baseman, just went on the IL with a right oblique strain.
Yep.
They hope it's only a few weeks, but we've seen oblique strains for other players last for 2 months.
Yeah, we remember what happened to Judge last year.
Exactly. Giancarlo Stanton goes on the IL. He should be back in maybe another week or 10 days. But as we know, Giancarlo's always hurt. So that's what just the expectation with him.
And that's
Judge is
that's a strained left quad as well.
I believe so. Judge, the earlier in the year, was hurt. Luckily, he's been fine lately, but that's always something that you feel like is on the horizon for him. Hopefully not. Hopefully you can avoid it. But now even the pitching rotation has been struck. Corey Kluber was pretty average, kind of bad in April, but May really started to turn it on. As people probably know by now, he had the Major League's 6th no-hitter when he pitched, I believe last week and got that no-hitter. And now he's on the IL for 2 months.
And it's gone.
And it's gone. So even though he had picked things up, I think he had a sub-3 ERA. And, well, we're recording this on Thursday night, and the Blue Jays just hit a 3-run home run by Bo Bichette. You might like that for your fantasy team. But
I mean, I'm disgusted, but
aside from it's a 7-inning doubleheader today, so they lost earlier, but I have the game on in front of me, and they're now down 3-1. But basically, the Yankees' biggest problem really has been the batting lineup and not the pitching. Yes, that's ugly that Montgomery just gave that up, but you said the stats already: top 3 or 4 in a lot of those categories. But the average, the home runs, it's all down. Torres has been a major disappointment. Catcher has been a disappointment. They had to replace Gary Sanchez with Kyle Higashioka, and Higashioka, yes, handles the pitchers a little bit better, but again, he's not going to provide a lot of pop. He'll maybe hit the occasional home run, but he's batting under 200, and it's just they're going to be fine. I'm not going to freak out. I still worry about their long-term prospects, but they have a battle on their hands because we expected the Rays to be good.
Yep.
Thought, all right, the Blue Jays, this will be maybe the year where last year maybe a year earlier. I think they did make the playoffs, but the playoffs were expanded, so it was a little different last year. But we thought, all right, they'll be better. Vlad Guerrero is going to be much better. He's amazing. He's in the
young legend.
He's the AL MVP as of right now, hitting 331 with 16 home runs. But we thought that it was just going to be those 3.
Yep.
The fact that the Red Sox are in the conversation as well makes it very difficult. It's going to be a dogfight, and we have the dog days of summer coming upon us. It's been really hot out lately here in New York, and we're approaching June. But the real question is, what are the Yankees going to do for their lineup? I don't see them making a trade anytime soon. They need to get guys starting to hit, not just healthy. I mean, it would help if they had Hicks, who's always hurt. We know he's out for a couple months. But not only getting guys back like Hicks and Stanton and Voit, but DJ LeMahieu has to pick it up and start hitting better. Gleyber Torres, a key cog that we thought would be better than this, needs to be hitting better. They really need more contributions than they're getting right now offensively.
Yeah, and I would hate for the Yankees, because coming into the year, we figured pitching was the necessity, that we needed more horses in the rotation to really make a push on the elite of the elite in the majors. But here we are, end of May, beginning of June. Like you said, summer's right here. Memorial Day weekend is right here. It's a go time. I would hate for the Yankees to have to address their hitting at the trade deadline. Like, I heard some stories floated around earlier in the year of names like Story out in the shortstop out in Colorado, and a couple other names thrown out there. But do we really want to throw our best prospects that we got that we don't want to trade and move them for more hitting? It sounds weird. It feels weird, but we can't cry about injuries because every single team in the majors is getting swept with injuries. It's really weird. It's really ugly. I mean, we're not talking about the Mets yet, which we will in a hot second, but the Mets are trotting out literally AAA and AA lineup because everyone is hurt, and it extends to their rotation as well, and it's a damn joke. But I personally would like to think they'll get it together. With these kinds of hitters, you can't keep them down for long. We know baseball is a game of streaks and stuff like that. You get hot, you get cold, it happens. But these are some of the best of the best. We're not talking about some up and comers. We're not talking about some young legends who got to figure it out. We're not talking about some wily vets that need to step up or something like that, like the Giants are getting and whatnot, or other teams around the majors are getting a bunch of nobodies stepping up doing special things. We've got superstars. So we've got MVP candidates. We've got all stars. LeMahieu, Torres, Stanton, Judge. I mean, these guys just got to get it together. I mean, I know nobody's hitting this year around the league. It's the worst hitting baseball has ever seen. I'm pretty much sure since like the dead ball era, but damn, man, as of now it's really really ugly. It's really threatening. I'm not that concerned, like I said, but these guys got to get their acts together, and health can't be an excuse. It just can't. We just got to hope that Boston falls off a bit as the season goes on. It's a long year, so the long season kind of weeds out the contenders from the pretenders. But at this point, Bob, I'm looking at this Yankees team, and I'm not convinced that this is a World Series contender. I'm not convinced that I don't even know if they're the best team in their own division at this point. So we came into the year with high expectations for the Yankees and high hopes, but I am a little scared for the overall, because I know once we get into the playoffs and we start playing the best of the best, we're not going to go far if this team is going to play like this. Sanchez has really got to get it together. He's got 1 foot out the door. So Stanton's got to get healthy and stay healthy. We got to get Torres. He's in 274, but we need more. We need bigger plays. 2 home runs is unacceptable. LeMahieu should be fine, but he's hovering at around 260. There's a lot going on here, and I'm not sounding the panic alarm quite yet, but I am concerned for the playoffs if we get there at the end of the year, because the team that's currently constructed ain't good enough. But let's stay in New York. Let's go to Queens. Let's talk about the Mets, because the Mets, on the other hand, where the Yankees are in third place, the Mets are in first place in their division. They're 24-20. They are 2.5 games up on Philadelphia. They're 6-4 in their last 10. And they're doing it with me and Bob as their top 2 hitters, because Pete Alonso has been out and he's been injured. Lindor is hitting 185 and has been complete, just hot garbage. JD Davis has only played in like 14 games, 10, something like that. Nimmo is out. McNeil's missed time. Go down. Conforto's missed games. It's really, really threatening out here. And we're not even talking about the pitchers. DeGrom's been out. I know Walker. I feel like Walker missed the start or two. I feel like, and we know what's his face. Peterson is another one, and Thor just got the bad news that he's going back on the shelf with inflammation or pain or whatever in his rehab. So who knows when he's coming back? But the Mets are figuring it out. They're finding ways to win. They have to be commended for that. Looking at their stats, they're another team. Their hitting is doing absolutely nothing. I mean, the Yankees are bad, but at least they've got the pieces. This team's hitting just sucks. They're 30th in the majors in runs with 148, 29th in home runs with only 33, 29th in slugging percentage, 27th in batting average. Dear God. I mean, yuck.
It's bad. It's really bad. A lot of players injured. If you thought we talked about a lot of injuries on the Yankees front, the Mets have been hit way harder, and they still are waiting on Carlos Carrasco. He tore his hamstring in spring training, and he keeps getting delayed. Yeah. He's probably not coming back until late June. And then, it's everybody in the lineup pretty much except for Lindor. And the funny thing is, Lindor, as you mentioned, is batting 185 and has been terrible. Now, luckily they've been playing one of the worst teams in baseball lately, the Colorado Rockies. So they had a doubleheader today. Fortunately for them, they won both games. But James McCann's been a terrible signing so far. He's hitting under 200. Conforto, as usual, slow start, only hitting 230. They just had to trade for Billy McKinney, who used to be, I think, with the Blue Jays, and now they're batting him. They batted him third in one of the games today, so it's rough. But luckily, even though the NL East is still strong, and we said it was the strongest division going into the season, and they're all bunched up together, no one's getting out to like a 30 wins so far, like the Tampa Bay Rays are in the AL East, or no one's pacing the field quite like the Padres, where they're 32-19 in the NL West. That's what's good for the Mets, even though they've had a lot of struggles, and Mets fans have been frustrated with mainly all the injuries. Really mainly with Lindor. Lindor's number one on their shit list right now.
Yeah.
Then it's all the injuries. And then after that, it's probably Luis Rojas. But they can't complain as much. And I think they are realizing, look, we're still leading the division. And that's really all that matters. You need to see improvement from Lindor and some other guys and get guys healthy. But at least they're doing a little better than treading water. 6-4 in your last 10, not great, but it's not bad. It's above 500, as we know. So the Mets, they have DeGrom going every 5 days. They're able to beat up on some bad teams right now. So it's not all great. It's not sunshine and rainbows, but it's also not all bad at all either.
You listen, they're winning
2.5 on both the Phillies and Braves.
They're winning.
If we told them before the season that they were going to be 2.5 games up on those teams, on any team in their division and in first place as of Memorial Day, they would have signed up for that.
Oh, absolutely, dude. If you said you guys are going to be in first place going into the holiday, every Mets fan would say, "Let's do it." I mean, I'm sure they would like to be in this spot with a lot less injuries and their stars playing well, but you can't have it all. And they're doing it the same way the Yankees are doing it. If the Yankees are third and fourth in all the major categories pitching wise, well, look at the Mets. They're third in ERA, sixth in batting average against, fifth in WHIP. They're another team doing it with pitching, and that's been the theme around the league this year is the pitching. Pitching is at an all-time high, which sounds really weird because I kind of remember the narrative this past offseason and every offseason being that every team needs pitching and there's never enough pitching to go around. And everyone's looking for starters, and everyone's looking to build in their pen, and everybody needs more guys in their staff. Well, when you got Taijuan Walker with a 2.05 ERA and an 0.98 WHIP and 41 Ks and 44 innings, you're like, Then you got Stroman with a 2.73 ERA. I'm looking at this. It's one thing for DeGrom to have a 0.8 ERA because he's the best pitcher in baseball and one of the best pitchers we have ever seen in our lifetimes. So that's one thing. But Walker, give me a break. Gellisman with a 2.5 ERA, give me a break. Stroman 2.73, come on. Really? Come on. It's not just the Mets. This is something that's going on all over the majors. But this weekend's matchup between the Mets and the Braves is a big one. It's going to be a big one because you want to kick off the summer the right way. And you definitely don't, if you're the Mets and Mets fans, you definitely don't want to go get out of this holiday weekend getting swept by the Braves or something like that and go from first to third or fourth. Because even the NL East is very tightly bunched. The top team is 24-20 in the Mets, and the bottom team is 21-24 of Washington. They're literally separated by less than 4 games. And the top 3 are all separated by 2.5 games. So this is going to be a very pivotal weekend for the Mets. I'm interested to see if they really step up to the plate with all these injuries. But I got to give them credit, man. It's impressive. I'm not impressed easily, and I don't give enough love to the Mets, I feel, mostly because I hate Greg as a sports fan. Nice. Our buddy Greg, who's a Mets fan. But I don't give them enough love. So I want to make sure I give the Mets their due here because it's nice. It's early, but it gives hope to that fan base for sure.
Look, it's a lot more fun when both teams are good. Just like we see the Nets and Knicks playing in the playoffs right now. Yeah, we're Knicks fans, and of course we want to see them do better than the Nets, but how awesome and how excited and lit would New York City be if the Nets and Knicks played each other in a conference finals?
Bob, my little heart is not ready for such excitement. I don't know if New York City is big enough for for a subway uh, series between these two teams.
We got to go into basketball now. That's
Yeah, now it's time. I was looking at
I'm
some
done with
baseball stats, but
I'm
yeah,
done with the Yankees and
I'm
Mets. It's May.
I'm done with the beef. Let's eat what we're gonna eat. Let's go. Fantasy, Jesus Christ. Playoff basketball, baby. The Knicks are 1-1. The Nets, who play actually tomorrow, I believe. The Nets and
Yep.
the Celtics play game 3 tomorrow. I think that's going to be in Boston. The Nets got a nice 2-0 lead. Not a surprise there. But let's start with the Knicks, Bob, because let's be honest. We expect the Nets. Everyone expects the Nets, if their big three is healthy, to pretty much just run through the East and at the very least make the Eastern Conference Finals, if not the NBA championship. So we'll jump back to them in a hot second. But with the Knicks, let's throw out some hard truths here, Bob. I shit on this team. I verbally abused them for most of the year. I was disgusted by us winning games. I thought it was all a fluke. I've been saying since the beginning that we did not belong. We are not this good. It was an off year for a lot of teams in a weird season. But I got to sit here and I got to eat crow because even though I'm still not impressed by this team, I'm not. I don't like the talent. I hate that they're this good because I still think being this good will damage this rebuild from being done properly. As I've been saying all season, until I see differently, I still think this is the same old Knicks that we are used to. And I'm expecting to be let down and disappointed as this rebuild continues. But they're 1-1 right now with the Hawks. They've played very good basketball. They're playing hard all year on every possession. They're playing defense, the best defense in the league. And they're playing winning basketball. And it's really nice to see, and it's really different. But even though we're tied 1-1, and I'm really, really surprised and happy as a Knicks fan in my own way that we're actually here. It's been 13 years since the Knicks made the playoffs. It's been bitter decade plus of disappointment and suckage, but here we are.
Yeah, just eat that crow. Just
Yeah.
wash it down with a nice beer. And look, it's going to be a drag it out series. I was not one of those overconfident Knicks fans thinking, oh, well, they beat the Hawks 3 games to 0 in the regular season. It's going to be a 5-game series. No. It's going to be
Mm-mm.
at least 6, probably 7
Yeah.
games. It's going to
Yep.
be a tough series. This team
It
is
is.
good. The Hawks are better talent-wise than the Knicks. I agree with that. They have Trae Young, who's wonderkind at point guard, just one of the best young players in the NBA. John Collins is pretty much a double-double machine. Now, he sucks defensively, and he has his own holes in his game, but very talented player. DeAndre Hunter, top 5 pick from a couple years ago. He's healthy after battling an injury throughout the year. Danilo Gallinari, we know as Knicks fans, is a productive player. Great piece, especially since they're not asking him to do a lot. He just plays 25 minutes a game, whether that's starting or off the bench. And they basically have a deep squad. But the Knicks are a little more they are tougher. They're more defensive minded, and it's going to be a battle all series. It's going to be close like this. I think it'll split in Atlanta, and then it's really just a matter of what happens over those last 3 games. But the one thing that, big picture I want to talk about, since you talked about, the Knicks, I think this is a fluke. They're really not this good, et cetera, et cetera. My
Mm-hmm.
whole point was, look, they did it, though. They tried to tear it down and tank. It didn't work. They got RJ Barrett, who's blossoming, still growing as a player. He's not going to be Zion or Ja Morant. I'm sure of that already.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a good player. I'm glad he made a jump this year, just like Randall did, and wound up winning the most improved player, Randall did. But look, this is encouraging to me, to other teams around the league. They wound up getting 4th place. They wound up hosting a playoff series. everyone can see how crazed the fan base is and how much they support this team, even when they're not at full capacity in Madison Square Garden. And when you look at what's happening over in LA, no, not with the Lakers, but with the Clippers, big picture here. Why can't Kawhi opt out this offseason and say, where could I go? Well, wow, I could go to the other coast to a team that has a lot of money, wound up as a 4 seed, just like my team. The 4 seed is the Clippers in the West, Knicks in the East.
Mm-hmm.
Got a good coach, defensive minded, tough, well respected. You got Julius Randle, emerging star in RJ Barrett. Why can't Kawhi Leonard say, I'm going to run with the Knicks?
Do you want me to tell you why?
Yeah, I want you to tell me why.
You don't know why?
Just tell me.
Because
I expect it to not happen because we're pessimistic Knicks fans who have been beaten down for 20 years. But do tell.
it's very simple, Bob. It boils down to this. He's a fun guy. And fun guys don't belong in New York. All right. He's not going to be able to handle the expectations. Because I'll tell you what, we're the 4 seed now. Randall's an all-star. They're tied 1-1 in their first playoff series in 13 years with a new head coach. And a lot of hope. And a lot of wishes for a bright future moving forward. But with this playoff appearance, with where we're sitting, with this playoff win, even if we lose the series in 5 games, 6 games, this comes with expectations. And this is New York City. You can have expectations. You could go to Toronto, be the 1-2 seed, and no one's going to look at you and say, oh, you better win because you're Toronto.
He went to LA, though.
I know. But hold on.
Not the Lakers.
Then he went to LA, and he decided instead of going to play with Bron and playing with the big brother team, with the world-renowned team, with the championship team, winning team, he decides, you know what? I'm gonna go to the redheaded stepchild of LA. I'm gonna go to the LA team that nobody likes. Okay. And look how's that working out for him. Now let's throw this out there. Number one, I don't think he'll be able to handle New York media. This is in Toronto. Yeah, he's in LA, but LA is not as rough and as harsh and as critical as New York media. This much I can guarantee. And let's be honest, going to LA, playing for the Clippers, yeah, you're Kawhi. Yeah, you're a top 3, top 5, definitely NBA player. And it doesn't matter. You've got a legitimate running mate in Paul George, who's a legitimate all-star, former MVP candidate, not that far removed. And it doesn't matter. So aside from the media, the fan expectations, this being the Mecca, I mean, come on, bro. It's MSG. It's the Mecca. It's literally the basketball town in the world, okay? It doesn't matter how bad the Knicks are. MSG sells out every single game. And it doesn't matter if who they're trying out there. The team could win 10 games and they're still going to sell out. It don't matter. It's not like that with the Clippers, I would bet. And I would bet that the Clippers fans aren't as ravenous as Knicks fans. I've never been to a Clippers game in LA, but I'm going to guess that they're not as brutal as we are here, okay? He doesn't seem like someone who's ready for that sort of limelight. Oh, but he went to LA. But he's not the star of LA. He comes to New York. Yeah, we got Durant and Kyrie in Brooklyn. But let's be honest, Durant's star has kind of faded a bit since he was with the Golden State Warriors. People call him a snake, a sellout, whatever. Coming to the Nets, trying to build something here with the Nets and pick his team and whatnot. And they built a nice squad over there. Oh, look, great. Now Durant's got Harden and Kyrie. Whoop-de-doo. When Kawhi comes here, Kawhi is going to be the star of this city. Let's be completely honest.
He would.
And if he came here, automatic, we expect a championship. That first year he's there. I'm not even one of those Knicks fans that have those expectations. Okay, I'm not. I'm far from it. But he comes here, we expect a championship that first year. I don't want to hear nothing about getting eliminated in the first or second round. I don't want to hear nothing about he's resting, leading at the end of the season, going into the playoffs for whatever. I don't want to hear none of that. Like, I better be playing minimum 70, 75 games, okay? We better be a 1 or 2 seed, and that's what it's going to be. And he's not about that life. He'll go back to San Antonio before he comes to New York.
I disagree with that
Believe
wholeheartedly.
that.
He's not going back to San Antonio.
Okay, no. I'm not saying he's going back to San Antonio, but I'm saying.
Well, you did say that he would more likely to go there than to the Knicks. He would
go almost anywhere else but New York. Because, I mean, dude, just look how New York media and fans were when the Nets got KD and Kyrie. As soon as they got here, even before they got James Harden, what were they talking about? Championship or bust. It was that simple. It didn't matter that Steve Nash was a first-time coach. It doesn't matter that it's the Nets and they've not been quite right. Nah, you got Durant, you got KD. You got Kyrie, you got KD, you kept Jordan. You make it happen. They got Harden. It's over. You expect the championship. That's where they're at.
Now,
Kawhi's not about that life, man.
Now we got to get back into the current day in Knicks, but we went big picture because we know the Knicks, right as they're currently constructed, aren't a championship team. But to tie it up and put a bow on it for the Kawhi talk, look, it's not happening with the Clippers. They're not as good as the Lakers in their own city. He went there, and the expectations have been there since day one. They were expected to win it last year. They disappointed and lost to the Nuggets in round 2. Right now, they're down 2-0 to the Mavericks, and no one's really giving them a shot to come back because they just don't look that good. Right now, Luka Doncic is the best player in that series. I think if you're Kawhi, I hate that. I despise that because I've won 2 finals MVPs. I won it all 2 years ago with the Raptors. I'm disgusted with Paul George and the rest of that roster. It's just not that good. We thought it was very talented. I liked it more last year. Some people I heard someone on NBA radio earlier this week. I think it was Jeff Van Gundy actually, which is surprising, but he's like, oh, I think the Clippers are the most talented team. I'm like, first off, they're not the most talented team. They're up there, yes, because of Kawhi and PG. But Patrick Beverley and Marcus Morris and Serge Ibaka, that's not a great team. It should be better than the Mavericks. Yes, I think so. But it's still not a championship team. We've seen that now. We know after last year, we know after the 2 games in this series, they're not winning this year. So if I'm Kawhi, I'm opting out. That might not be to Knicks. As I said earlier, I'm pessimistic. I don't expect good things for the Knicks long term. But he's got to really think if he does opt out, which I think he will, he has to, because at least maybe then the Clippers give him a huge fat supermax extension so he can maybe cash in with the Clippers or go to a team that presents a better option for the next few years. He's 30 right now, maybe going on 31. I forget his exact age. But basically, to me, he can look at the Knicks now and say, wow, this team finished pretty much same place as my team. They're young enough. They got some young players. They play hard defense, which Kawhi is all about. And yes, they're going to have to compete with the Nets and maybe the Sixers, but I still think it's not as tough as it is out west. And I think Kawhi could wind up with the Knicks. It is a possibility. Now, returning to the current state of the Knicks, it's going to be a drag-out series. Randall has absolutely sucked these first 2 games. He needs to be better. I think actually going down to Atlanta is going to be a better thing for him. I think in the first 2 games, I believe he felt the pressure of being the superstar, being the most improved player, being the guy for the preeminent franchise in New York City. The Knicks arguably are New York's team because you have the Yankees and Mets, and they've been around in the same city for so long that it's a city divided, really, baseball-wise. Of course, there's more Yankees fans, don't get me wrong, but there's a huge segment of Mets fans, whereas the Nets came from Jersey. It's not the same. The Knicks dominate the talk in New York. There's no question about it. It doesn't matter that the Nets are blowing out the Celtics and have all the expectations, are clearly better than the Knicks. It's all about the Knicks right now. If you're listening to the radio or watching on TV, newscasts, it's led by the Knicks. It's about the orange and the blue. And then obviously hockey and football, it's not the same. Football, of course, is popular, but it's kind of the same thing as the Yankees and Mets. Both teams have been around for so long that it's really a city divided. This fan base and this city is so hyped up for the Knicks right now. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
It is.
The only problem right now is that I do take offense to some of the things the Knicks fans have been doing. We saw that some Knicks fans spit at Trae Young yesterday. That's despicable.
Disgusting.
We can't be doing that.
Yeah.
We can't be saying
trash.
We can't be saying fuck Trae Young. That
Trash.
Can't be happening. You can say Trae Young sucks. I mean, obviously he doesn't, but that chant is fine. The vulgarities and spitting and throwing things, leave that out. That's just garbage. You look like trash. You make the rest of us Knicks fans look horrible.
Yep.
Chant other things. There's plenty of things you can chant. Even yesterday, they were saying Trae Young is balding. That's funny. That's
great.
Playing with the player, and it's not overly offensive. It's obviously tweaking him and making fun of him, but it's at least in some kind of jest and being creative. Not saying F Trae Young and spitting at him or doing any of that. Just Knicks fans got to stop with that. But it's going to be a tough series. In Atlanta, I think they'll split. It's just a matter of what really happens in those last 3 games. And fortunately, the Knicks do have that home court advantage.
You know, I'm glad that you brought up the fans being jerks, because I actually feel very strongly about this. I've been to dozens of games across all the major sports, and I've had a blast at every single one. And I've never been in a situation at a game where I'm surrounded by fans who are being like, yeah, I mean, sometimes you'll hear someone screaming vulgarities and stuff like that from the bleacher creatures or whatever, and you might even have someone screaming out and somebody says, hey, stop swearing, my kid's with me. And then it calms down or whatever. I mean, the guy will keep screaming, but at least the swearing and the FUs and the C words and, oh, you're whatever, all that stuff goes out the window, and he stays animated, but the vulgarity goes away out of respect. That's what I'm used to. But this is not just a New York Knicks fan problem. This has been happening all over the NBA. And I know in Washington, somebody threw popcorn at Russell Westbrook as he was going to the tunnel due to injury. And it was one of I'm pretty sure it was one of the Wizards' own fans, I think. I think I remember seeing something about him getting kicked out and then losing his season tickets or something like that. But like, what are you doing? What are you thinking as a fan to do that? Like, is it a sense of entitlement? Oh, I paid $1,000 for this playoff ticket, so I can say and do whatever I want. Is it entitlement? Are you just a dick? Like, did you not get smacked around enough as a kid? Did mommy not love you enough, so you got to lash out at random strangers? Like, or are you just some rich punk who thinks you can say and do anything because you know who your daddy knows or where you work or something like that? Like what drives people? I get it. Sometimes you get drunk and dumb and you're having a good afternoon or a good night or whatever, and you had a few too many and you get a little carried away. But spitting at a player in the middle of a game, throwing popcorn and verbally abusing an athlete who's walking off the court injured, what are we talking about? What are we doing? It's I'm all for talking smack. As anyone will tell you who knows me, I am a class A hater. I will verbally abuse anyone with the best verbal abusers on this side of the Mississippi. All right. But there's a time and a place. It's one thing for me to tell, you, Bob, that you suck and I want to punch you in the face. But it's a different thing to go to an athletic activity, a game, sitting in the stands and yelling at somebody's wife. Like I heard something about, I think it was a San Diego Padres game, maybe something like that. But it was a baseball game where a guy's wife was getting insulted, threatened, like really nasty stuff. Like, oh, you must not know how to pleasure your husband because if you did, he wouldn't be so tight out there. Like, what? What are we even? You're gonna, like, if you did that, if you were standing next to somebody and you insulted their wife, the next course of action would immediately expect you to either be on the floor or you to be in a scrap, because you're not going to insult someone's wife to their face and walk away scot-free. That's just not going to happen.
It's similar to how we talk about keyboard warriors, people behind a computer that will talk crap and say bad things and throw racial slurs and insults.
Yeah,
it's because they think they're in the stands that they're safe. It's like, no, you're not. You could be just moments away from getting Jermaine O'Neal to run our test back in Dallas at the Palace. Now, a lot of players aren't going to go and do that. That's rare. But at the same time, you got to put yourself in a point of view of what if someone was doing that to you? People don't do that enough. They don't do enough of taking someone else's point of view or their perspective. And just because, all right, yeah, they're multimillionaires and they get to play a game for fun, it's still hard. They dedicate themselves to their craft. They got to put a lot of effort and energy and time into what they do. And just because you bought a ticket to the game doesn't mean you get free reign to say and do whatever you want. You're 100% correct. It's just unbelievable that people will treat others like such trash, and for no reason other than you're wearing an opposing jersey. Like that's literally what it is. It's not even like, oh, you have different viewpoints than me, which is still ridiculous to treat them like that. But it's literally like, oh, you're on the opposing team, so I'm going to hurl these insults at you. Again, you can talk trash, but just keep it at least maybe PG-13 or say, all right, you suck.
Something. Even if you want to swear, because sometimes I've been guilty. I'll be at a game and I'll get a little excited and I'll say, oh, F that, or oh, this umpire effing sucks. What a B word, whatever. I'll get a little excited, but time and place. And you got to do it. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. You say what you got to say, and get over it and you move on. You don't keep pestering. You don't keep badgering. And then to make it worse, you don't throw things. You don't spit or throw drinks or something. What would have happened if those security guards did not get a hand on Russell Westbrook and he ran up those stairs and beat that guy's ass? Then what? Then Russell Westbrook looks like an animal, and Russell Westbrook is the one who gets in trouble, and he gets fined, and he might get suspended. And remember what happened at the Malice at the Palace, when a guy lost an entire season of his career because of that. And it's ignorant. It's reckless. It reeks of entitlement, and it has no place in the sports world as a fan. You got to have class. You got to have some tact, and it's a fine line, okay? Because we know how rabid some fan bases can be, and we know how crazy fans can get. So I get it, but stuff like that, completely unacceptable. I'm glad that guy lost his season tickets and is never welcome back at a game. I'm glad that guy who spit at Trae Young is never welcome back at MSG, and he should probably never even be invited to never be allowed into another NBA arena nationwide again, period. You want to do something stupid? You want to be a big man and place and make believe that you got some big cojones? Yeah, you want to take on a professional athlete? All right. Yeah, you think you're big man? Well, guess what? You're going to have to be a big man from the couch from now on, because you're never going to see one of these guys play in real life again. And I mean, short of that and legal action against these people, there's no there you know there'll always be jerks, but that's unacceptable. And I hope moving forward, Knicks fans, I know you can't bunch everyone into the same category because of one douchebag, okay? But I hope moving forward, fans see that and the outrage from athletes on all across all the sports, because this has been a huge topic on the airwaves the last couple of days, especially today. And I hope people see that, hear that, and they get themselves together, collect themselves, and act like adults and enjoy the game. Be a fan, cheer, jeer, scream, have a blast, have some drinks, have some food, make some memories, take some pictures, but be respectful, be classy. Don't be a douche. Don't try to make it to Sports Center. No one's impressed. Grow the fuck up.
Now, with that said, let's go to the Nets, and they don't have to worry too much about doing stuff like that because really there's no concern with the Celtics right now. Plus, there's only about 75 Nets fans that exist, so there's not that many people. But jokes aside, this team's really good, and they are absolutely dominating the Celtics right now.
No.
Durant, 26 points in the last game. Harris was on fire at the beginning of that game, hit like 4 or 5 threes. He was unbelievable. James Harden, same old, 20 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds. They're just firing on all cylinders. They should sweep the Celtics. Maybe the Celtics get one of these games in Boston, but it would be an absolute shock if it went any more than 5 games, and really should be wrapped up in 4. But before, you talked about they should maybe be a shoo-in for the conference finals, which maybe will happen. But I think really their toughest test is going to come in the next round. They are very likely to be playing the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't need to talk about the Celtics. They're going to cruise past them. So I'm already writing the Celtics completely off. They've gotten blown out in the first 2 games. I don't think it's going to be any different in Boston. But going into the next series is really where the Nets are going to have their toughest challenge. I think the Bucks will present that toughest challenge because you look at the other side of the bracket and, all right, we assume Philadelphia is going to advance. Then they're going to play the Knicks or the Hawks, and probably we all expect the Sixers to make it. But I still think the Bucks are really the biggest competition for the Nets. How do you feel about that, Dan?
I don't agree. I don't want to, shit on the Bucks. The Bucks are a great team. I love Giannis. I mean, you know how I feel about Giannis. So, and the Bucks are one of the better teams in the league. They're up there in points scored. They're up there in field goal percentage. They're up there in 3-point percentage and 3-pointers made. They're up there in rebounds per game. They're one of the best teams in basketball, but they just don't have enough, bro. I love Giannis, but you can game plan for Giannis. He's a more of a one-dimensional guy. And honestly, I question Brooklyn's defense as a team. They don't have any defense worth note, which is scary in the playoffs. But it doesn't matter when you're scoring 130 points a game. So as long as the Nets keep scoring, they should be fine. I question if the Bucks would be able to keep pace with this team. Because, I was just reading over the stats. The stats are cute. First in points scored, third in percentage, yada, yada, yada. But it's a different ball game in the playoffs. And the Nets are just too good, man. If the big 3 is healthy, I just don't see a way that any team can ball with them. It's just that simple. If Durant's going to come out and average 28 and 10, I mean, ouch. And then Kyrie's out there averaging 20 plus. Oof. And then Harden's out there averaging 20 plus. And all of them are shooting 45% or better. All of them are shooting 93% or better from the free throw line. And if anyone shows up other than the big 3, like Harris has, that's scary, dude. Harris is averaging 17 and a half over the first 2 games of this series against the Celtics. That's real nice, bro. And that's exactly what they need from him, from Shamit, Green. When he comes back, I know Green's going to miss the rest of the series, but Green stepped in for them a lot during the season and was a key player for them. So I don't think the Bucks are going to push the Nets. I think it's the East is the Nets to lose.
But basically, do you think the Sixers are a tougher challenge than the Bucks? That's what it sounds like.
I do think the Sixers are a tougher challenge than the Bucks because whereas for the Bucks, yeah, Giannis is 6'11". He plays power forward, center, small forward, whatever they need him to play. He's positionless, but he is a big man and he's a dominant big man. But he doesn't have a three. He doesn't have a shot. Embiid does. Embiid will take those threes. I mean, Ben Simmons won't, but Embiid will. And if Embiid doesn't want to take those threes, there's nobody in the NBA who can defend him as a big one-on-one, because he's just so multifaceted. If he wants to, he can bully you in the paint and dominate. And if he feels like it, he feels like stepping out every so often on a pick and roll and drifts out to the three, he can slap those threes. He showed that this year. He took his game to a new level, something real special. I think they would be better the Bucks are an easier matchup because they can handle Giannis's game better than I think they can handle Embiid's game. And I think Ben Simmons offers a very interesting defensive matchup for them because Simmons can guard any one of their big three at any point. And Ben Simmons is an elite defender, one of the best defenders in basketball, regardless of position. So I think the 76ers are better. Plus the coaching, plus their depth. They're a talented squad. I like Milwaukee too. I really do. I love me some Middleton. I love Giannis. Holiday is a very solid third piece, another elite defender, but there's just something missing with this team. I don't know what it is. When it comes to the playoffs, they're just not quite right.
Well, coaching, I'm glad you did bring up because I do like that point. I do think Doc Rivers has proven more than Mike Budenholzer. Mike Budenholzer's been a great regular season coach, but has left a lot to be desired over his coaching tenure in the playoffs, both with the Hawks and the Bucks, seemingly unable to make certain adjustments. But so far through 2 games, it's been very good for the Bucks. And I think they're going to cruise to the second round, similar to the Nets. They're not going to play more than 5 games against their opponent, which in this case is the Heat. But I do think I think the Bucks will present a bigger challenge to the Nets than the Sixers, simply because you do have a guy who is arguably the best player on the court in Giannis, arguably, because I still think KD is better. But I don't trust Ben Simmons. That's a big thing for the Sixers, why I don't believe in them. And I just don't trust their shooters and the surrounding pieces as much as this Bucks team. I think this Bucks team is a little tougher defensively than them in some ways. Ben Simmons is a much better defender than Drew Holiday, and his size will present a challenge for whether he guards against Kyrie or Harden. But I think also part of it is whoever plays the Nets really needs to try to outscore them, at least in a couple games. And I like the Bucks' potential more, actually, than the Sixers. Sixers with Embiid and Tobias Harris, those are 2 elite scorers. But with the Bucks, obviously we know Giannis can get his 30 a game. We know Middleton can score 20, and we know Holiday can. But I also like the shooting options they have around the perimeter, whether that's DiVincenzo or Brook Lopez, whoever else. I think the Bucks are going to be a little bit more of a challenge in that second round than the Sixers are going to be. Now, I still expect the Nets to win, but if I had to put any prediction out there, I'm going to say the Nets are going to have to play more games against the Bucks than they will against the Sixers, assuming that those are the 2 teams they play in the next 2 rounds. I think both of us are sticking with our predictions before the season that the Nets are going to make the finals. I'm pretty sure you predicted that. I know I did.
I honestly don't remember.
Okay. Well, anyway, I know I picked Lakers Nets before the season started, and I had the Lakers winning it. If I had to give predictions before the playoffs, I would have stuck with the same finals prediction, but actually thought the Nets would win it. So I think they're going to make it. I think they'll win it. But I do think as far as the Eastern Conference playoffs go, their toughest test will be in the second round.
I really like the Bucks. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's just one of those things, a gut feeling, I guess one would say, where I'm I'm not that confident on them, but I like them. I really do. But we're in New York. Let's go Nets. Let's go Knicks. Let's go Yankees. Let's go Mets. Let's go Isles. I'm Dan Kornhauser.
I'm Bobby Hunt.
Thank you guys for tuning in. This was a fun show. And give us a follow online. We are on social media. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter. Bob, what is the handle?
That handle is DB Talking Sports. D as in Dan, B as in Bob. We appreciate any and all feedback. Hit us up on either of those platforms, or if you know us personally, any kind of input that you want to give or something that you want to talk about, hear us talk about. We appreciate it all. We also welcome any guests. If you want to jump on the podcast, call in, let us know.
Absolutely. All things are on the table. Well, almost all things. And with that in mind, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, give us a follow, like Bob said. We'll respond in the DMs, all that good stuff. And I'm on thegruelingtruth.com. The podcast will be on that website. Again, it's thegruelingtruth.com, where legends speak. And the podcast will be on there. I'm providing written content for them. I'll be breaking down all the NFL teams' moves this offseason on a week-by-week basis, team-by-team basis. It's going to be exciting leading all the way up to the training camp. And I'll be putting some stuff out there, talking about the Knicks, talking about the Yankees, talking about the Lions. And it's some fun stuff. So give the website a visit. Give me a follow on there. Give me a like, share with your friends, etc. And we appreciate your support. We'll talk to you guys later.